Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we are going to be continuing to track Tropical Storm Fred as it has come ashore a few hours ago, where we talk about the remaining effects for the coastline and then start to talk about the impacts from Fred or whatever's left of it as it continues to track inland. Before I get started, however, be sure to like the video and subscribe as it does help my channel grow, and I'll help this video get out to more people that do need to see it because definitely a lot of people still left in Fred's path. Of course, the coastline, you guys aren't really done yet, especially when we're talking about that onshore push. So we're going to get to everything in this video, the remaining effects of the coastline, as well as what's going to be in store for you guys inland. So looking at the National Weather Service radar, I got to say this storm still looks very healthy. You can clearly tell where the center is. It's pretty much in here. All right, we have sort of a northwestern eye wall almost going on here. So low pressure centered right about here. We got like a little northwestern eye wall. So right around Dothan, Alabama, you guys are pretty much right in it. So although the red is just to your west, but Dothan, Alabama, pretty much in at what I would call a northwestern eye wall. But then we have like these bands, right? These very powerful bands that are still coming on shore. So that's why I said for the coastline, you guys aren't really done yet. You probably still have a few more hours. But I would say for a place like, and remember, they're also farther north. For a place like Apalachicola, that's further south, no precipitation to talk about right now, but just know that the low pressure is here, so as long as it's to your west, you will continue to get an onshore push as we're starting to see the return of high tide, so do keep that in mind. But even still, we got a big area of rain, not just from the eye wall, but obviously like a bigger massive rain from Albany, Georgia over to Dothan, Alabama, and it is bigger than this. I'm just using like a regional radar. I can't recall where the radar site is from, but it's only a regional radar. So there is more rain than is shown here, and we're going to get to that later when we look at the models. I believe there's actually a special marine warning. I'm believing that is. Yeah, special marine, it says on the top right, for one of those bands, but I guess it did expire once it came on shore. So hopefully, I would hope that there's no boats out there right now, but there are some flash flood warnings for the Florida Panhandle, so pretty much just north of Apalachicola, including Panama City. Tallahassee, at least, I mean, you guys are like a foot below average in terms of rainfall. I think that's for like the year or for the month, but no, I'm sorry, that's for the year. So Tallahassee, you definitely been like below average. So at least you need the rain, but we don't want to see it all at one time like this. So 55 knots is what was observed at 2 o'clock. I can tell you it's weakened a little bit since then. But it made landfall with winds around 65-ish miles an hour, between 60 and 65. So like I said, over those warm waters, it did strengthen. Pressure right now is 994, although I believe that's dropped to 999 in the 8 o'clock update. But yeah, pressure was down as low as 993, I think. So it got pretty strong in the end. And if we look at some of the model track guidance, the models bring it north and then kind of make like a right-hand turn once the front picks it up, so it'll steer through the northeast. So the mid-Atlantic, the northeast, you guys will have some time. We're going to have Fred's, I mean, believe it or not, the low is down here. Fred's moisture is already getting fed up into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. All right. Now, it's not directly like, we're not saying like the core of Fred moved through there right now, but we are getting Fred's moisture coming in. I mean, and I wouldn't even be surprised because tropical storm, it's pronounced Henri, but I pronounce it Henry to be more simple. But Henry just formed out here too, so don't be surprised if a little bit of moisture was getting flung out from that too. So we're getting moisture from a lot of systems, plus the front. So this will continue to track north 48 hours from now. So this will be like Wednesday afternoon, evening-ish, or probably the center at least, quote-unquote center. And we'll be tracking through the northeast. And of course, good thing is a lot of models are similar in track, although I don't really think, I mean, you pretty much have a good idea where the center is going to go at this point. I don't think track really matters so much anymore. It's just a matter of, when we're going to see the impacts end at the coast and when the impacts are going to start for places like inland. So inland, you're not going to have the surge threat, although maybe if the low, makes its way, offshore, we could see, but no surge, except for what's going on on the Florida Panhandle right now. The main threat for you guys north of here, inland, is going to be the rain. And the rain that comes from the sky, and just know that this has been east side loaded, And that could, that could change with the storm. We could see more. I mean, we have seen like the eye wall is on like the north and northwest side. It's really weird. So it's really not like if you look at the radar, like we're going over like what I showed you earlier. Like this is like almost like a northwestern eye wall. Then we have like a little low center in here, and then like a broader low pressure like in here. So eye wall's on the northwest side, but this is still an east side loaded system because once you get past the little eye wall area to west of it, there's really nothing over here. So this is still generally an east side loaded system. And as we're going to continue to see the storm track north, you're going to get, of course we have the jet stream in the front that's coming through. So even more upper level winds will probably make this east loaded even more than it already is. So expect impacts on the east, from the center points east through the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. So let's look at some of the GEFS model tracks. Again, the pressure will start going up. It will start to weaken as it heads through the north and east, but probably the center of it will probably track through Ohio Valley and the interior and northeast is what we're thinking here. GEPS model tracks have a good batch have the center going through Ohio. Most of them actually have it going through the Delmarva region, like center maybe going over DC, Philly, or New York City. But like I said, I don't really think it matters as much at this point. I just wanted to, bring it up and just to make sure you know where the center is going. So let's look at the satellite imagery. And here's a satellite. So of course we had right when it made landfall, there was a big, I'm sorry for the satellite image that bounces around. I don't know why it does that. But you can see the blow up of thunderstorms right when it made landfall. That sort of fizzled out a little bit since, but at the same time it hasn't because the area of red, like the colder cloud tops, is really expanded. So that's something to keep an eye on. We can start to see some downpours coming from those colder cloud tops. But really a big blow up of thunderstorms. It's like from there it all just expanded outward. It's really cool to see. But this thing really got organized really quick. And of course, as with any Gulf of Mexico tropical system, those things can happen. And of course, you got your eastern side bands over northern Florida right now. Now, as for the center, again, National Hurricane Center official track does bring it through Alabama, Georgia, and pretty much up the mountains. And I think from a wind perspective, that will kill the storm entirely. But it will not kill the moisture because moisture will be wrung out in the mountain regions and still more moisture will be carried up north. I think it will kill the storm in terms of winds produced by the system. But just know that the rain and storms that it will produce could still, they could still produce strong winds. It's just that the winds associated directly with Fred will not be so strong. Of course, because it's going to become a tropical depression, according to the National Hurricane Center, around Tuesday afternoon, maybe even probably I would say tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, and then a post-tropical depression after that into Wednesday, as it continues to track north. And the flood threat over the next 3 days is where we're going to start to talk about, places inland. All right, so at the coastline, of course, a moderate flood threat according to the Weather Prediction Center, and of course around the Smoky Mountains, northeastern Georgia, northwestern South Carolina, western North Carolina, and eastern Tennessee would be the more spot to impact a little bit more. But even the yellow region, especially the yellow and red regions, I would watch out. All right, so we're talking about just west of Philly, we're talking about DC, pretty much right around Richmond, Roanoke. All right, so these areas, Syracuse, Wilkes-Barre. Of course, the Poconos, right? That's also another mountain region, so be careful in the Poconos there as well as the Appalachian chain in western and south central PA. Now, if we look at the rainfall, all right, this was created at 4:34. I'm not sure if they came out with another map. I think yes, this is the latest one. So this is valid 2 p.m. Today through 8 p.m. on Thursday the 19th, and you can see again those darker greens, and we see some more yellow a couple patches of yellow start to pop up again. So for like northern Pennsylvania, where the Poconos are, maybe 2 to 4 with isolated spots on the more tallest point of the mountains. Maybe you guys could go 4 to 6, but around the Smoky Mountains, even more elevation, it could be even worse for you guys. 6 to 10 inches of rain, but there will be a good swath of pretty much where that center goes, 4 to 6 inches of rain. But of course, like even a place like Charleston could still see 2 to 4 inches. So impacts will extend. Right along the track and then east of track. All right, even places like New York City and Philly and DC could even get 1 to 2 inches plus, and of course in a shorter amount of time that could be a little deadly for flash flooding. Now there still will be the chance for tropical storm force winds, although I would limit that to the area shaded in yellow or brown and red and purple. That's where the chances exceed 40% of seeing tropical storm force winds. But just know that as it moves inland, we could see maybe a gust to tropical storm force. And especially, of course, as you go up in elevation for the Smoky Mountains. I'm surprised the threat's not actually higher there. But when you go up in elevation, the winds will increase. I mean, that is common knowledge. That's what happens as you go up. The air gets thinner, wind speeds will increase with altitude. So definitely be sure you know that about tropical systems or any storm really, or even just a normal day. All right, as you go up in elevation, wind will increase. We see a pushing flow up the mountains, and of course that's why we see the rainfall. That's just the moisture that's wrung out across the Smoky Mountains. So wind threat is also still there. Key messages, okay, heavy rainfall through the Florida Big Bend and the Panhandle. Storm surge is still ongoing around the Big Bend region and northern Gulf Coast of Florida. Tropical storm conditions will continue in those regions, maybe even southeastern Alabama and southwestern Georgia. But once it gets north of there, start focusing less on the wind and then focusing more on the rain. And if we look at the hazards, so again, this is the region, all right? So right in here through the Big Bend region, all right, in Florida, this is where, if you look at the orange, potential for winds of 58 to 73 miles an hour, which is the criteria of a strong tropical storm. So that's the core of the strongest winds where we saw them and where we're probably still seeing some strong winds, actually. So just outside of Dothan, so Panama City, and Apalachicola, Port St. Joe, so those areas we're seeing the strong tropical storm force winds. But even still, there is a potential, okay, all the way up through, like right on, if not just east of the Atlanta metro, that the weather service there is saying there's a good probability that we could see tropical storm force winds, or if not that, at least tropical storm force gusts. But this is saying like sustained winds, like potential for wind of 39 to 57 miles an hour in the yellow shading. So that does include Dothan, Alabama, Albany, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, and then all the way up through Atlanta. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Storm surge, we look in the orange, greater than 3 feet above ground is still possible from Indian Pass and Apalachicola through the Big Bend region. Of course, we know it's very vulnerable to surge there. But even on the Florida's west coast could see 1 to 3 feet of surge. So yellow is 1 to 3 feet, and our orange zone is 3 to 5 feet of surge. So Panama City, 1 to 3 feet of surge is still expected. Now, for you guys in Panama City, see the low center. If you go back to the radar again, low center is pretty much right here. Now, Panama City, all right, is right here. So if we look at it from a wind perspective, right, if the low is sitting here, Panama City, you're probably starting to get the surge now because when the low was due south of you, I mean, you do have the wind coming up, but then you also have the Big Bend region here, kind of like as an area of land blocking it. So once the low gets to this region, now you're going to start to see more of an onshore push. So sometimes the worst of the surge happens right on landfall. Sometimes it's after landfall or even before. It all depends on when the tide cycles line up and how you're geographically positioned from the storm. Now we're going to take a look at a couple of local weather services. First off, we got Western Virginia here, the Appalachian chain and the Smoky Mountains. So there's Boone, North Carolina down there. Boone, 4 to 6 inches expected, and just south of you, in a little darker shade of red, is 6 to 8 inches. Place like Roanoke, 2 to 3 inches can be expected here. Lexington, Virginia, 2 to 3 inches. So along the mountains here, orange color, even yellow. Even yellow, I mean, is over 1.5 inches. Dark green, wide spread is over 1 inch. So I mean, even 1 inch is a lot. Like, I mean, considering some areas typically can expect 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, like, per week, and getting 1 inch of rain even for a day can still be, a little heavy. So we will be keeping an eye out for some flooding. Philadelphia region and D.C. and New York, average totals of 2 to 4 inches, so isolated totals up to 6. So you got areas up here near Mount Pocono and Allentown in that 2 to 3 inch zone. We got pretty much from like Baltimore to Wilmington, another area under 2 to 3 inches, even a little dot of 3 to 4. DC in that 1.5 to 2 inch range. Philadelphia is in the 1 to 1.5. Same for New York City. And then south of DC, maybe like just not even that far away from Alexandria, Virginia. Yeah, 2 to 3 and even upwards of 4 inches with isolated totals up to 6. So scattered showers and storms will return to the Delmarva late this afternoon because remember, we got the front that's coming through here. So not only Fred, but the front, which is why it says return. Showers and storms start Tuesday and continue through Wednesday. You will see an active pattern through Friday. Multiple rounds of precipitation, of course, could lead to flash flooding. So before we wrap up, let's go over some of the models real quick. So high resolution model, again, remaining pretty well intact. Like, not looking that much different than it did on landfall. You can see at north and northwestern side is like the heaviest core of rain. And then we got those bands that extend to the east of the storm. And then it will continue to move towards the north and east. And of course, you'll see the rain carried along with it. I think a good chunk of the rain will be where the center moves from, but its moisture will generate some thunderstorms farther east. So don't think that you're out of it. And of course, we could even see a band, if I can't go any further, but this band could even travel, north and east and kind of clip the mid-Atlantic area. All right, so let's look at the NAM. Lastly, so making landfall 993, 18Z model run 994. I mean, considering this model run came out as it was making landfall, I don't see how it possibly could be inaccurate, but good job, NAM. At least you got it right. So low pressure continues to move towards the north. Still well intact. We got a center in here. We got a band of rain to the east, eyewall to the north side of the low. Then it will continue to move to north and east. And a few inches of rainfall can be expected in some areas, but a couple inches widespread. So thank you for watching this Tropical Storm Fred coverage. Of course, got updates on Grace and Henry, whatever you want to call it. So Grace and Henry updates will be coming, and more activity even after that. So thank you for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.